Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Donald Trump has clearly won the battle for the heart and the soul of today's Republican Party, but not every member has given up, and now a prominent Republican is ramping up and fighting back. That member, Liz Cheney. She represents the entire state of Wyoming in the House. She is, at least right now, the conference chair in the House, the third highest ranking Republican position. But that's not going to be for long. She's all but guaranteed to be losing that post next week because she refuses to embrace the big lie, the lie that Donald Trump won the 2020 election. Now, the writing is more than on the wall for Cheney. In the past 2 days, both of the Republicans above her, Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy and GOP Whip Steve Scalise, they have gone public supporting her ouster. McCarthy's trashing of Cheney caught on a hot microphone.
I think she's got real problems. I've had it with her. It's, I've lost confidence. Well, someone just has to bring emotion, but I assume that will probably take place.
Now, we've seen other Republicans stake out positions opposing Trump before, but none with the traditional conservative heritage of Cheney. She represents, as the daughter of the former vice president or from someone in a position of party power, the traditional conservative Republican. And now she has decided to not go quietly into the good night. She's fighting back to try and rescue the GOP from Donald Trump. And with more on that, I want to bring in senior political correspondent Andrew Whitman.
Well, Rich, as you said, Liz Cheney may be going down, but she is not going down without a fight. Cheney published an op-ed in the Washington Post last night, placed there specifically so her colleagues from both parties on the Hill would read it. In it, she explains why she refuses to hold water for Trump and why other Republicans should ditch him as well. Quote, "There is good reason to believe that Trump's language can provoke violence again," she writes. Trump is seeking to unravel critical elements of our constitutional structure that make democracy work. Confidence in the result of elections and the rule of law. No other American president has ever done this. The Republican Party is at a turning point, and Republicans must decide whether we are going to choose truth and fidelity to the Constitution. In the immediate wake of the violence of January 6th, almost all of us knew the gravity and the cause of what had just happened. We had witnessed it firsthand. I am a conservative Republican, she continues, and the most conservative of conservative values is reverence for the rule of law. Each of us swears an oath before God to uphold our Constitution. The Electoral College has spoken. More than 60 state and federal courts, including multiple Trump-appointed judges, have rejected the former president's arguments and refused to overturn election results. That is the rule of law. That is our constitutional system for resolving claims of election fraud. The question before us now is whether we will join Trump's crusade to delegitimize and undo the legal outcome of the 2020 election with all the consequences that might have. That approach will do profound long-term damage to our party and our country. Trump has never expressed remorse or regret for the attack of January 6th and now suggests that our elections and our legal and constitutional system cannot be trusted to do the will of the people. This is immensely harmful, especially as we now compete on the world stage against communist China and its claims that democracy is a failed system. Cheney then suggests that Republicans support all the criminal investigations of rioters being brought by the Justice Department, as well as an independent bipartisan commission to investigate the riot and only the riot. Other Republicans want to investigate last summer's occasionally violent civil rights protests with that same panel. Cheney concludes, history is watching, our children are watching. We must be brave enough to defend the basic principles that underpin and protect our freedom and our democratic process. I am committed to doing that no matter what the short-term political consequences might be. Cheney in the piece sure sounds like a woman who knows her time in House leadership is up. She's either been reading the tea leaves or reading the headlines. Fox News and other conservative media have turned on her, calling for her ouster, and more Republicans are saying she cannot survive the conference vote set for next week. Cheney's headaches in Washington matched only by the headlines in her home state of Wyoming. Word that pro-Trump groups are looking for candidates to run against her in a primary, and reports of polling that we cannot confirm that voters in her home state are turning against her. She's got company in that regard. You can bet that Cheney has watched this clip of Mitt Romney, who, like Cheney, voted to impeach Trump as he faced Republicans at his own convention in Utah this weekend. Rich?
Unbelievable, Andrew. Thank you. For more, I want to bring in Sarah Longwell. She's a Republican who has been sounding the alarm about Donald Trump for years now and who helped found the group Republican Voters Against Trump, which ran ads against the then president during his 2020 re-election bid. She's kind enough to join us now. Did you see an inevitability with what happened to Liz Cheney in the aftermath of January 6th, or even after the last 4 years, are you surprised that you in many ways don't even recognize a party you grew up with?
Yeah, I'm still surprised. Honestly, I know that it should seem like I've lost the capacity to be shocked by the depths to which the Republican Party can sink. But I remain still very surprised. You know, when Liz Cheney survived the last vote that was taken on her, she survived it handily. And I thought that Kevin McCarthy was really planning on trying to hold together a broad coalition that ranged from Liz Cheney and the others who voted to impeach, like Adam Kinzinger, all the way down to the Marjorie Taylor Greenes. It seems like he was going to try to manage that unwieldy coalition. So to see the knives come out for her simply because she won't go along with the lie is still stunning.
I ask why, not being a babe in the woods, but Republicans had their chance, and leadership, I mean, from Mitch McConnell and McCarthy on the 6th and in the aftermath, they made it clear, you know, Trump went too far. All she did was echo that going forward. I'm surprised. They could have kept her where she was and let her do the dirty work for those who didn't have the courage to say what she would. I'm just surprised, Sarah, that they said, you know what, no. We have to still bend the knee. We still have to show fealty to a guy who can't even be trusted to have a Twitter or a Facebook account. They had their chance, and it wasn't even politically courageous. Just let her do the dirty work, and they cut her loose. I'm surprised about the political calculation when leadership, maybe not as courageously as her, but at least they said, okay, he went too far with what happened on the 6th.
Yeah, so here's what's going on. This is because she is off message for where they want to be, right? So yes, they all said what they said. They condemned it at the time. And then, of course, they started to walk it back. I mean, even somebody like Mitch McConnell, who condemned it in the most uncertain terms, has said that he would endorse Trump again if he were the nominee in 2024. It's really wild the way that they are backtracking. But what you have to understand is that they are making the lie, the idea that the election was stolen, a central part of their 2022 and possibly even 2024 strategy, right? They are running on a grievance-fueled platform of the election was stolen from Donald Trump and we've got to fight back. And so when she's saying that the election was free and fair, when she's saying that the insurrection was the result of Donald Trump, when she continues to take him on, that is just at odds for the messaging that they've decided that they're going with. They've decided, and the reason is that that's where voters are. I mean, I do these focus groups all the time with Republican voters. In the last couple of months, I've been doing them with a lot of 2020 Trump voters. They believe that the election was stolen. They believe that the insurrection was no big deal. And so it is true that Liz Cheney is out of step with the base of the party. It is true that she's not on message for where Republicans want to be right now. But the fact is, she is objectively correct.
So the question is there anything that can break the fever? And by that, I mean, I've been wrong so many times on this. I thought the Access Hollywood was going to kill it. Didn't happen. I could have thought, with what happened with Ukraine and all the rest, that, the impeachments, that might have done it. I certainly thought January 6th was the nail in the coffin for Trump. I've given up predicting, but my question is, Cheney's a smart woman here, and she's playing a long game. She's tripled and quadrupled. I'm sure a lot of it's principle, but also some of it's calculation. Is she more likely to find herself out of a job when she runs for re-election, or that she's going to have a bigger place in the party in the next few years?
Yeah, that is a tough question. I'm not quite sure how to speculate it. Look, I do think that she could probably survive a Republican primary in her state, especially if there's a bunch of people trying to primary her. As to whether or not she has bigger ambitions, it is totally possible that she could say, you know what, this is catastrophic what's happening to the party. and I'm going to run in 2024, and I don't care if I get creamed. I'm going to go up there and tell the truth, and I'm going to say what's happening to the party is wrong, and I'm going to try to persuade as many people as possible, even if the only reason that she ran was to make Republicans face the truth about the lie that they're telling. That would be a good enough reason as far as I'm concerned, because there's something very conservative, something that I really identify with in just protecting the institutions, right? The point that she's making is that if you lie about things like an election being stolen, you are lying about the foundations of everything that makes our democracy work. And so, honestly, I think the reason that she's doing it is because she feels like it's a threat to the party and a threat to the country, what's happening right now, to base an entire political party and its strategy on a lie.
So of the few remaining moderates that are left, or those that are in the Cheney camp, albeit conservatives say this is, a line too far for me, it seems they've got two choices. One is they go radio silent right now because they don't want to have happen to her to happen to them, or they break off, they try and form some new coalition with moderate Democrats and create some leverage, at least, on some of these big policy debates we got coming forward. What is it? Do they hunker down, or do they say enough is enough?
Yeah, different people are going to do different things. I think you could see people like Adam Kinzinger or maybe Jamie Herrera Butler, certainly Lisa Murkowski in the Senate, and maybe Mitt Romney, looking for ways to work with Democrats and try to be serious legislators and negotiate on bills, do certain things that are meant to protect democratic institutions. But I think that the rest of them, keep their heads down or worse. And so for all of the Republicans, and I think there was a lot of them who thought, okay, Donald Trump, maybe he's terrible and a cancer on the party, but I'm going to keep my head down. And, eventually he'll lose one way or another, and he'll go away, and we can go back to being the party that we want. I even thought that to some degree. But that's a fantasy. It's not going to happen like that. And so these legislators are going to have to make a choice. There's nowhere to hide anymore. Either they're going to have to be part of this new MAGA cult that is forming on the right, where you have to bend the knee, or they're going to have to figure out something different, whether that is splitting off into a different caucus and trying to use that as leverage, whether it's you just see how many of these Republicans are retiring. A lot of them are just saying, this isn't for me anymore because the party's not where I am. So I don't know how to predict the future, but I will tell you I'm feeling very pessimistic about where things are right now.
And, I was talking to our production meeting, the idea that Cheney, with the lineage and the rock-ribbed Republican conservative bona fides that she has, is going to suffer a punishment while Matt Gaetz hasn't even paid a price yet. I mean, it just speaks to the bizarro world we're in, and we both agree. We need two functioning political parties right now to give voters a credible, choice, and we don't have it, and I think the nation's worse for it right now, but I always appreciate a few minutes, Sarah. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, folks, when we come back, undoing a painful legacy of the Trump term. The children taken away from their families at the border, they are slowly being reunited. But just finding them, it remains elusive. We're going to be getting an update and also a look back on how we became a nation that could do something really unimaginable. More on that after this.